All right, guys. So I am super excited tonight we have three ladies that are completely dominating in all of FFL domination, guys. They are your leading agency owners, guys, as well as your leading agent. So they've all done telesales. They have all done in-home sales. Erika was a beast in the home before she decided to switch to telesales. Desiree has gone back and forth. So she's done in-home telesales, and been able to master both depending on what's right for her and what's right for the client at the time. And same with Alicia Andrade. So all three of these ladies, guys, last year in 2022, protected over 250 families. So they made over $250,000, guys, which is three ladies that you want to be able to work with and learn from. Okay. So the reason I want to do this training, guys, tonight is because a lot of people are getting in the home. A lot of brand new people are getting on the phone and going into their very first appointments, or getting on the phone and trying to do telesales. And there's a couple things that I think, we don't like to do a lot of in-home training for a couple reasons. The first reason is that you need to develop your own style, right? We can show you what we do, and at the end of the day, you're going to kind of copy it, but you do need to develop your own style. And the second reason we don't do a ton of in-home training is because the phones are 90% of the business, guys. So if you're not dialing the phone, and if you don't have appointments, and if you're like, hey, Marissa, I don't get on live dials, and you're probably not booking appointments. So for a lot of us, guys, there's no point, and this is what I always tell brand new agents, there's no point in talking about the in-home every single week, or talking about the in-home or the telesales presentation, whichever you're doing every single week, if you don't have appointments. Okay. So first and foremost, guys, you have to have appointments, and you have to get on the phone. If you're not willing to do those things, or you're not doing those things, then the stuff we're going to talk about tonight kind of doesn't really apply to you. Okay. That being said, if you are getting on the phone and you are getting in the home, we do want to do, a training once every couple weeks, every couple months, to just talk about some do's and don'ts. So what I'm going to do, guys, is we're going to run this kind of panel style. I'm going to have the ladies introduce themselves, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Desi, if you want to start, most people know who you are. We saw you on the FFL America call last week. So great job, girl. But if you can give us the 30-second intro to, how long you've been with us, your experience with FFL and the whole deal.
Yeah, so I came in end of 2021, and I transitioned from real estate. I still do real estate, and I'm doing more insurance full time. But I'm over in Tacoma, Washington, working with Prime Group and Diego and everybody. But yeah, that's the quick intro. So I came from commission-based sales, and now I'm still in commission-based sales, and insurance is the best industry, in my non-biased opinion.
Non-biased. Heck yeah, I love that, girl. All right, Miss Erika Haynes, the queen.
Hey, I've been in this business since October of 2020. I never had any sales, any insurance, or any phones. So for me, this was all brand new. And I just was willing to take a chance, work really hard. And I've been able to change, my life. And I have a team going, and I've been able to change multiple people's by just helping them learn to do this simple task. So that's really what it's all about. I think in the very beginning, you're learning to do it yourself. And once you can start to change other people's lives, that's when it really gets fun.
I love that, girl. Thanks, EH. And Alicia.
Hey guys, I have been with FFL since August 2021. And before that, I was a grievance counselor in intensive trauma and grief, and a pilot that was just kind of gaining hours whenever I could. So I'm super grateful to be in the business. It's been awesome to be able to obviously talk about grievance counseling and pulling it over on this side, but I've been able to kind of help people in a way that I wouldn't have been able to, as well as helping my own family. So
I love that. Absolutely crushing it, girl. So guys, the point of tonight, again, so make sure you're taking notes. I know I've said that like 700 times, but the reality is these ladies really do know what they're talking about. And they're some of the best people in all of Family First Life, and actually the insurance industry. So when you look at the insurance industry as a whole, the life insurance industry, guys, there's very few people. There's like a very, very small percent that has been able to do what these ladies have done, guys. So you really want to take this in. The other thing I want to talk about with the in-home, guys, is I've done a couple in-home trainings, and people are like, hey, you didn't give them any objections. So tonight we're going to go over a couple objections after these ladies kind of give their intros. But the reality is, guys, that you're in-home, and I know they'll tell you this as well, your in-home or your presentation, whether it's on the phone or not, is basically you make it or break it in the first 2 minutes, the first 2 to 5 minutes. And every one of these ladies will tell you, I know if I'm going to get it in the first 2 to 5 minutes or if I'm not. Right. And the reason for that, and the reason we don't give them a ton of objections when we role play, guys, is because they're like, well, I wouldn't get that objection in the home, right? Like I wouldn't actually get that objection because I would set it up so good. So ladies, what I'd like to do We're going to go over do's and don'ts. We're not going to do a whole entire presentation because everyone, again, is going to kind of come up with their own. But I'd love for each of you, and we can kind of go in the same order, to just do your first 2 minutes, the introduction to exactly now. If you do it in the home, do it as if you do in the home. And if you do it on the phone, or, you know, Alicia, you kind of do both. So whatever you think is really helpful, but just your first 2 to 3 minutes, as if you were sitting on a client, your introduction to your presentation when you get there.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump in first. The domination boot camp, that was Toby's little like 14-minute video. I think what really helped me was I watched that and I wrote kind of everything down, and then I practiced it because I mean, I did suck. I know, I don't know. Marissa says like we're all really good, but I sucked so bad in the beginning, and I didn't want to suck anymore. So I was like, what do I got to do? And I was obsessed with training videos, and I was listening to all the different things that came on. But I kind of mimic almost everything that Toby says in there. But you know, I'll go in and I'll knock on the door, and I'm kind of, if you book a full day of appointments, it's awesome because I'm almost always late to appointments because I want them to know that I'm busy. So I'll be coming in, I'll be like, hey, awesome. Where's the table? I'll kind of go directly to the table, and then I'll be like, hey, so I'm Desiree, I'm the insurance underwriter. I know we spoke on the phone real briefly. I help a lot of people with traditional life insurance. Now, Mary, there's 3 reasons why people kind of look into this stuff, and I'll go into, they don't have anything set up for their burial final expenses. They need some sort of income replacement because if they die, then their income stops forever. And then 3, they might just want to leave a legacy behind for their family, a gift behind for some grandkids. Maybe it's all 3, but what was your primary concern? Then I'll pause, and then they respond. And then like, that's the direction I'm going to go. But right after that, I want a name. I want a beneficiary's name. So I'll say, cool, Mary, that's awesome. Let me see how I could do like whatever I got to do to help. Now, if you died tomorrow, who's going to be the main person today that's going to be picking up the pieces? And then they'll say a daughter's name or somebody's name. And that's the name, the key name I'll be using throughout the rest of the appointment. And then after that, like I'll talk about it. So if they say, oh, it's like my daughter, you know, Joanne, cool. Is Joanne here in Tacoma? Yeah, she is. Awesome. Because a lot of my families, they want to make sure that if, you know, their kids are in a different state, they want to make sure they cover that flight cost. So I'm glad that you're looking into that, but I'm glad she's also local. And then I'll pull out my state license, and I have like a little folder I have, and on the FL America training video, I think it's all on there. But then credibility, I think, is super, super important too, because I don't want these people thinking I'm just a quote person. I always come in and say, hey, I'm a medical field underwriter. I don't like to use the word broker. Some people do. And I'll kind of like bring out my state license. Cool. So I'm licensed with the state. This is my state license number here. This is the government website to verify I am who I say I am. And then kind of going through the credibility sheet, I'll just like all that license allows me to do is I have access to all of these different insurance carriers. Oh, it's blurry. And then I want you to know, Mary, that I'm not loyal to any of these guys. But I'm more loyal to whoever I'm sitting in front of. Okay. So I'm not captive like State Farm or Allstate. I work with these guys, but I don't work for them. And then I always like to say this, like I'll say it maybe like 3 times, like insurance is something you can't buy. You have to qualify for it. And that's why I'm here today. And then after I explain that process to them, I'll kind of go into the financial inventory, but I'll spend a couple minutes there explaining them like all we're doing today is we're going to see what you could get qualified for, because I don't make any final decisions. The insurance carriers do. And then I'll know that by asking a few minutes of health questions and financial questions. And at the end of that, we'll be able to submit a request for coverage to the insurance carriers. They get back to us and let us know if you're approved, declined, or if they need more information. And I'll find out from there.
Perfect, Des. So that's like first 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, a little bit shorter. And when I'm in home, I could read if it's important to the person. And then if they're like not paying attention, I'll ask them hard questions so they could pay attention to me.
Okay, perfect. So guys, because we called this the do's and don'ts, I want to go through that real quick. We're not going to dissect everything, and then we're going to go on to Erika, but some of the do's. Okay. And these are the things that you should be writing down. What did she do? First things first, guys, she takes control right away. Where's the table? I'm not sitting on the couch, right? Where's the table? Oh, I'm going straight in. Okay. Second thing she said, guys, is here's my state license. Credibility. Okay. Here's why I'm not a regular captive agent. I'm a medical underwriter. So the terminology that she uses. So if you guys are making a column between like, here's are the do's and here's are the don'ts, here's what should be in the do's column that Desi just talked about. Okay. Her state license. She said, and you can be different, but Desi said, I don't like to call myself a broker. I say I'm a medical field underwriter. Again, terminology, right? I'm not a captive agent. I don't work for any of these companies. I work for you. Okay. And I'm licensed by the state of Washington or whatever it is. And then also beneficiary name, guys, and the value of the product. Okay. That's probably the biggest one that I see skipped. And I know EH will get into that as well. The biggest one that I see skipped, and that's because I used to make that mistake. I used to go in and be like, yo, life insurance. And then I wouldn't talk about their beneficiary, wouldn't talk about what it looks like if they're not here. So value, right? Value of the product. What does it really look like, Desiree? What does it look like for Sky? If God forbid something happened to you yesterday, right? Her beneficiary is Sky. What does that look like? What does she do for work? Value, value, value. So those should all go in your dues column. Okay. Thanks, Des. All right, Erika, your first couple minutes and the things that you hit on. And again, guys, if some of this seems similar, it's because it is. And if some of it seems different, again, it's because it is, right? So that's the point of this. You're going to develop your own, but also it's a very copy and paste system.
So that's exactly what I tell new agents, Marissa. At the end of the day, they're like, what's your script? Like, I heard Alicia online. What's her script? Hey, can you get me Desi's script? Hey, and I'm like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whose script that you're using. There's 3 things that you need to establish. And unless you have those 3 things, it doesn't matter what you're saying, how you're saying it. 1, you need to establish who you are. So credibility, like Marissa and Desi were saying, you have to, from the very beginning, point out who you are. And the second thing is why you're calling. You have to remind them that you're calling because they requested it. Doesn't matter if it's mortgage protection or final expense. You have a lead, which means that they were interested at some point. So a lot of people say, hey, they're no longer interested. They say they don't remember doing this. Well, I know for a matter of fact, if Sean Britson was online and he saw a bathing suit ad, he's not going to click that ad because he has 0 interest in a bathing suit. Like 5 for $25, he's not going to click it. So if you have a lead, it's because they were online. They saw something that said something about life insurance, final expense, burial, mortgage protection, or they mailed something in. So their interest was there. So the second thing is making sure that you're establishing why you're calling, and it's because they requested your help. And then third thing is what you're going to do. So in the very beginning, doesn't matter how you say it, but you have to point out that you're the underwriter. You don't help them make any decisions. You cannot make any decisions that day. But your job is just to ask them some questions, figure out exactly what they may or may not have been looking for. And then you're going to submit an application, and then they're going to let you know in 3 to 5 business days. So I've done a lot of things by just establishing those 3 things. So I don't really want to talk about what I'm particularly saying in order or my script, because it doesn't really matter what my script is. As long as I say those 3 things and I'm establishing who I am, why I'm calling, and what we're going to do, then everything else doesn't really matter in between. Does that make sense, Marissa?
Yeah, that's huge. And Erika, one thing I want to point out from that is, guys, she gave you a very clear 3 things. And also Vincent's typing them all in the chat. So if you're not taking notes, then Vincent's doing the work for you. But very clear 3 things, guys, she gave you. But another thing, Erika, that I want to point out, you're very in control. How come you say things like, hey, this is what we're going to do, as opposed to, hey, Mary, this is what we can do today? What are the difference between those 2 things?
Because I'm the professional, and I think that nobody wants to be told what to do, but they want to be helped because they don't understand. So nobody goes into Best Buy to buy a TV and someone asks if they want help. They're like, no, I got this. I know everything about it. I know, it's 1020 versus whatever it is, right? At the end of the day, they put something in because they may be interested, but they don't know. So you only have one job to do, and that's to not screw it up. And what I mean by that is all you have to do is help them understand exactly what they were looking for and why. So if you can ask them the right questions, who's the beneficiary? What would it look like if I couldn't get you approved, right? So I never really talk about what I can do for them. And it's more, what if I can't? So today, I understand that you're looking for $15,000 to make sure that you have cremation, burial, money left over. But what happens, Marissa, if I can't get that put forward? Like, what happens today if at the end of the conversation, I say we can't get you qualified? What does that look like? And once you do that, you're able to create a story that they can't do on their own, right? In their mind, they're 50, 60, 70 years old. They've never saved for life insurance. It's never been on the forefront of their mind. But if you're able to peel back the layers and understand that an ad came up, they knew it was important, they just didn't know how important it was, and you're able to show them that you may or may not be able to get it for them, by the end of that conversation, they're going to be thanking you for reminding them what that looks like if they didn't have it put in place.
All right, Miss Alicia Andrade, your introduction to your presentation.
Yeah, so I think I try to just make it as flawless or as seamless as possible when I'm like going through my introduction. So I'm obviously telling them like, this is what we're going to do today. This is the reason for my call, kind of breaking down, confirming their information, and then saying, okay, if I'm doing a telesale, then I'm automatically sending them a copy of my license. Hey, it's not required by the state, but I like to make sure that if I'm going to ask you personal questions about yourself, that you know some things about me too. So that's my state license. On there, you're going to see an NPN number. What that means, that's my business social. So you can look me up on the Department of Insurance. You can look me up on, whatever. So I kind of break it down like that. And then so automatically after I do that, I'm doing the financial inventory. Once I'm doing that too, I'm also saying, okay, do you have any that acts as life insurance? Do you have a will in place? And they say, oh, no, I don't. Oh, perfect. Where do you bank? Oh, I bank at Chase. Actually, so what I'm going to do at the end of this conversation, I'm going to send you an email breakdown of absolutely everything we talk about. It is going to be a lot. So I am going to send you everything with the breakdown of the policy that we're going to get you hopefully qualified for, and then also a link to this place to do your own will. You can take it to Chase Bank and then they'll notarize it for you. It'll become a legal document. But that way, when I get to banking information or when I get to social, I've already told them, well, you have my work social. So, it's not that weird for me to be able to access yours just because I am the licensed professional. So it's my job. I have to have that to make sure that number one, no one's taking insurance out in your name. Number two, that if there's another Mary Smith out there, that if when she dies, she's not the one getting this money, right? We want to make sure it is tied to you. And then we just got to make sure that it matches with the medical records. So I don't get to see those medical records, but it is just going to cross-verify with the questions that I get to ask you. Then no one has to come out and take a blood or urine sample. Does that make sense?
No, I think that was great, guys. So what you think about for Alicia too is a lot of her terminologies. This is my business social security number. Why does she do that in the first couple minutes? Because later when she asks for their social, it's like, oh, I gave you mine, you gave me yours. Okay, the other thing Alicia does is everything's very, very professional and very credible. You can look me up. Here's my state license. Here's the link that you go to, right? And most of the time, guys, and that's really setting herself apart from being a typical insurance agent, right? She talks about medical records. She talks about a lot of big things that they're going to be like, wait, why would I be doing all this? Like, you wouldn't do that if you were just applying with some rando insurance agent, right? Like, you have my state license number, you have my business social security number, and that right from the beginning, guys, is credibility the entire time. Okay. So that's what I would write down from Alicia from the do's. Okay. Also offering them other services that other agents, guys, wouldn't do that, right? An agent from State Farm is not going to care about their will, or from a captive agency rather, right? So offering more things about, hey, I am here for your family. I'm not just in this for sale. Okay. Okay, ladies, love that. Now real quick, when we'll kind of go in different order, so it's not always the same. And then Alicia's like, well, they already said, I don't want you to go last every time. Erika, what is the difference? Because I know you're very good at this. What is the difference, before we get into some of these things, between an objection, like, hey, that's something I need to overcome, or this person's just straight up not going to get it? Like, I don't know that I even should waste my time, right? Like, when you were in the home, at what point would you get up and just be like, hey, I got more appointments, I got to rock and roll, or on the phone that you're like, I can overcome that?
I think the biggest thing is understanding if they're saying something and you can repeat it to them and them not make any changes, that is just someone that doesn't care or understand about life insurance. For them, it doesn't matter. So anytime I get an objection, I just consider it like I'm peeling back the layers on the corn, right? I'm just trying to get to the fruit or veggies of it, whatever it is. And the biggest thing is understanding it's always three things. one, they're not interested, right? This is an objection. Two, they have it taken care of, or three, they still want to shop around. And all three of those things can be fixed by you. So if they say that they're not interested, well, if they clicked on an ad or they physically filled out a form and sent it in, they're just not interested in what you have to say because you're not doing a good enough job of figuring out the value. They already have it taken care of is the best objection. Because if they've already bought life insurance from someone else and we have the best carriers, the best prices in town, then there's no reason why, if you didn't ask the right questions, that you couldn't get them to go your way. And the third thing is letting them know that you're going to shop around for them. So objections are just a great way to answer their questions. So the beginning, I would get so scared when they would say things that sometimes I would hang up. Like if I wasn't on live dials and they would say something to me, I'd be like, okay, perfect. And I would hang up the phone really fast. For like the first 2 months that I was ever here, nobody really knows that. But I literally, if I got an objection, I would like hang up the phone. I'm like, oh, I don't know. They just hung up the phone on me. But really, I hung up on them because I didn't know what to say. And then I got really good at those three things and understood that everything that they said to me, I was able to just change. And as long as you sound different from everyone else, then it's not an objection. It's actually steering towards the sale. So I've got that taken care of. Perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. What carrier did you go with? Because it looks like whoever you worked with didn't close out your file. Nobody likes a file that's not closed out, or your file showed as red flagged. So if you're able to be really quick with your objections to what they're saying, you're just gaining credibility, which is one of the first things we talked about. And the second, you're going to get momentum of what do they have? Why aren't they interested? And what can you do to make them interested?
Yeah, that's huge, guys. Objections are just a way to answer their questions and being able to decipher between if they just straight up don't care, right? She said, if you repeat something back to them and it doesn't change, right? So if they say, I'm not interested, and she says, are you not interested because of this and this and that, and their answer doesn't change, right? Then you never know. Whereas if they're like, well, they're probably just asking a question in an objection type of way. Okay.
Right. Marissa, just so that they understand what I mean by that, I've had someone on the phone, let's just say, for example, a married man that had 3 children, right? So let me understand this, Marissa. What you're saying is if something were to happen to you tomorrow, your wife and kids would be forced to move out of the house. They don't have any extra income, and that's not important enough to you today. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? And in the beginning, I used to be very uncomfortable with that. And one of two things is going to happen. They're going to go, well, I mean, let's look at the numbers. I just don't know. And then you realize it's actually a price thing. But if you say them, they're like, yeah, no, I think they'll just figure it out. They'll just move in with their mom. Right? 2 very different conversations. One, who's serious and who cares. And the other is just someone that's like, nope, I'll just fly by the seat of, my chair and move forward from there. So it's really easy once you put it back in their chair to understand, are they serious or are they not?
Yeah, that's huge. Repeat it back to them. Okay, ladies. So what I'd like to do now is go over some don'ts. Okay. And then I'm going to say the don't to you that I think is a don't that I've been hearing a lot over recently. And then you can either tell me how you avoid that or how you just don't do it or what would be a better way. Right. So, Alicia, I'll start with you. What do you say? Okay. So one of the don'ts that I have on here is taking orders, right? So agents call me and they're like, Hey, Alicia, this is Marissa. I'm in the home with Mary. She's 67 years old. She wants no less than $500,000 and she only wants to do it with F&G. She doesn't like any other carriers. Okay.
So, I mean, I think like personally, I take a lot of control immediately in the conversation, especially when I was doing mortgage protection. Like there were older people that are like, 80 and they refinance and they're like, well, I want $400,000. I'm like, it's not happening. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we are in the best situation possible. Now we do work with all the A+ rated carriers in the state. That means that I get to look over all of your options. And what we're going to do is, that's like my favorite line. This is what we're going to do, And then, I mean, I've walked out of a house where they really expected $500,000 between the two of them. And we went with equity protection. And I mean, it was a really high premium, but they were really happy with thinking about that. At least their equity was going to be protected. And so you just kind of have to take control in that way. And then just with regular life, you've got older people that are like, I really want 500,000. And I saw a commercial on Colonial Penn or something. I'm like, okay, cool. So that $1,000, that $500,000, it's a per unit. So it's $9.99 per $1,000. So unless you want to pay an astronomical amount a month, then that's just not going to be an option. And you have to qualify for that too. It's not like, it also has a decreasing term. You can use different things so that they can understand it. But I just like to take control and kind of let them know this is going to be the best situation for you. I'm obviously a licensed professional. I've had other people in the same situation or that have wanted the same thing. You can relate to them in different ways too, to make them feel a little bit more comfortable. But
yeah, and I think that's usually to what you just said too, about using other stories, right? And using other people, right? Or almost making it seem like, yeah, John, we'd all like to get 500 grand in coverage, but like, here's what you can get. And okay. I'm the licensed professional, guy. So, and see what's crazy about this is even when we talk about these don'ts, sometimes it's hard for the girls to answer because they're like, I don't get that because I don't do that. So what we're trying to show you guys is that if you can start in the first 5 minutes and get these things down, those things won't happen. Okay. And Alicia, you mentioned actually my follow-up question. You get someone on the phone and they say, hey, Alicia, I saw Colonial Penn for $9.99. I'm not getting insurance unless you can get it to me for $9.99. What do you say?
yeah, well, I mean, that's awesome that you were able to see that online. But like I mentioned, it's the per unit. So you're literally paying $9.99 per unit, per $1,000 or per $500, depending on your age. So it's just not going to be a logical situation for us to look over. That's also not one of the carriers that I work with, but I'm happy to go over everything that you would qualify for potentially. What we're going to do is we're going to fill out an application today, see if we can get you qualified for this product, and then, go from there.
Yeah, I love that. And guys, notice too, you can't believe them. So as a new agent, that's part of our biggest problem too, is like also you being educated, and we're telling you on this call. So now you know that like, that's not possible, right? So part of the problem is that you go in the home and they say, I want 500 grand. And you're like, okay, we can get that for you, right? Because you get in this habit of, okay, we can get that. So you're just a yes man at that point. And then you call your upline or your manager and you're like, hey, she wants to get 500 grand. And I'm like, she can't get that. Right? And you're like, oh, she can't. So also being aware that like, you don't act as if you believe that off the beginning. Okay. Everything is you educating them. Okay. Erika, you mentioned do not ever talk products until you talk to somebody. Can you talk about the importance of why you would call for help? Especially as a new agent, why you call a manager and what you meant by that.
Absolutely. And one of the rebuttals that I have for that is, hey, Marissa, you've probably shopped for a car at this point, you're 6 years old. Like when you see those cars and they say it's $100 a month, and then you get inside and they say, oh, that's not for you. You have to have perfect credit, X, Y, Z. That's exactly what's happening with those commercials. It's a bait and switch. So they're just trying to bait you in, and then they switch it up on you, and it's not actually what you're looking for. So what I'm going to look for today is what you actually may qualify for. I still can't make any decisions, but I can help you get to the right place. So again, building credibility in the essence of understanding that if it sounds too good to be true, it definitely is. And when it comes to not talking about the products, I think that is our number one fear as a new agent, right? So today, I was helping Michael Timberlake. It was his first dial. He was starting to get calls, and he said, this is what he's looking for. What do I do? Right? He didn't come to me and say, hey, Erika, this is what the client wants. He just did exactly what he was supposed to do, which is ask the questions in the financial inventory, send those questions to me, and then I'm going to let him know what we may or may not be able to do. So in the very beginning, we get so tied up on knowing what's the difference between America, Mutual of Omaha, John Hancock. But in the reality, as long as you understand term, there's a certain amount of time, whole life lasts your whole life, so forever. And when you're asking the questions, you don't talk about either, right? You're building a story of what are you looking for? Why don't you have it? And then once you're able to identify what their medical issues are, then you go to your upline and they're going to be able to help you. We're never going to steer you one way. So if Riyadh calls me tomorrow and says, hey, I have someone wants this, I'm not going to say, no, we can't do that because I don't want him to get that. I would love to be able to help Riyadh get his client whatever he wants to get them. But at the end of the day, it's not our decision. It's all based on medical. So if you can get really good at filling out the financial inventory and understanding why that financial inventory is even a thing, that's actually 90% of a telesale or even an in-home, is being able to ask the right questions during the financial inventory. So if you're spending too much time asking what they want versus just knowing what they are, right? You have to know your clients. And then once you know your clients, you can steer them the way that you want. And that will just come with time. So after 100 appointments, you should be able to answer any underwriting questions. But until then, you should not talk products until you know their exact health situation.
100%. I love that. And you should be asking for help on every appointment, right? I had someone call me yesterday and they're like, hey, I left the appointment. And I'm like, but you didn't call me while you were there. Like, you didn't call me. Like, what do you mean you left? You didn't call me while you were with the person. Like, that could have been a different situation. Okay. So your first 100 appointments, guys, and if you're doing telesales, you should be texting or putting them on mute and saying, hey, can you hop on live dials with me so you can help me with this? Okay. All right. So don't number 1, guys, was don't be an order taker. Don't number 2 was talk products unless you ask for help. Desi, don't number 3, we're going to talk about follow-ups. Okay. So when I was a new agent, and I see this a lot. Okay. I call you, hey, Desi, I just went to my appointment and they said they're going to think about it. And they told me to call them back on Tuesday though. So I'm going to put them in my calendar. I'm going to call them back on Tuesday to try to rebook with them on Wednesday. Follow-up appointments, chasing people around.
No, I don't, I don't really do those. I'm swinging really hard in the home and I'll use the refusal form. But going back to, I wanted to say one more thing with what they were saying about order takers. I always like the illustration of saying like, hey, Mary, the insurance carriers, they're the ones that they're really picky about who they insure, because at the end of the day, if you died, they're paying your family thousands and thousands of dollars out of their own, out of their own pocket. So that's why they're picky about who they choose. I just didn't want to forget that thought. But if I'm in the home and someone's like, oh, I got to think about it. Kind of similar to what Erika said, it's something that I did, but I mean, I normally don't get that. The person's just kind of not interested. So I'm trying to think like how I would answer that. But if they say that they're not good.
Yeah. So Des, if you're in the home and they're like, hey, I want to think about it. Do you think you could come back on Tuesday? What do you say?
I said, no, so I'm actually super busy. They have me booked all over the county. I don't have any openings for Tuesday, but Mary, why we're here today is that you told me, and I'll go back to their why, that you don't have anything set up for your daughter. So if you died tomorrow, she's going to be paying thousands of dollars out of pocket. Is that kind of what we're looking at? She's like, oh yeah, that is. So what is it exactly that you need to think about? Is it the price? Because we don't even know if we could get you the coverage, because they have to make the final decision. So most of the clients that I sit with, we have to send that out, that request out, and then they would get back to us. But at the end of the day, you're not insured, and I just don't want anything to happen to you. And now your daughter's going to have to pay thousands of dollars out of her own pocket, and that's important to you, right? And so I'll like reiterate that.
Got it. So guys, the reason I asked that is because, and it's kind of Desi's like, I don't even know how to answer this because it's a short answer. The short answer, guys, is you either sell it or you don't. We work on a lead system. And when you work on a lead system, guys, you get new leads and you just get new leads. You sell the ones you sell, you help the ones you help, the ones that aren't going to get it, and you move on. Right. So agents don't call me and they're like, oh, I'm just following up with the guy from January 28th. He said he told me to call him back on March 1st. So I put him in my calendar to call him back on March 1st. Like, no, guys, we're on to the next. Now, that doesn't mean don't dial your aged leads, but never once are you going to go to a home, especially go to a home or get through an entire telesales presentation. And they say, hey, I'm not going to do it today, but I'm probably going to do it in 3 weeks. No, they're either going to do it today or they're going to do it never. So no, you don't call them back in 3 weeks. You're not like, oh yeah, sure, Reyes, I can roll back up there on Tuesday if you want. Like, no, you're too busy for that. So no follow-ups, guys. You either sell it when you're there or you don't sell it and you move on. Okay. Alicia, you go to a home. Let's pretend you go to a home. I guess it would be on the phone too. You go to a home. They say, I have a policy.
Oh, perfect. That's my favorite.
Fantastic. They have a policy, but Alicia,
yeah,
they can't find it, won't grab it, / you don't get to look at it.
Okay. Totally understand. So let me get this right. And you don't know where it is?
Correct.
Okay. So if you don't know where it is, how do you expect your son who lives states away to know where it is? That's scary. You don't even know who you have coverage with. You don't have a broker, you don't have an agent that you can call and ask questions to. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. Sophia hates, I do it every time. I'm like, I'm going to do what your last agent didn't do. I'm going to be there for you and I'm going to be your broker for life. So we're going to get you coverage. You're going to know exactly what you have. You're going to have it in multiple places. You're going to have it in your email. You're going to have it somewhere important. And you're going to have, we're maybe going to send a copy to your son just so that he knows he's going to have my contact information. But that's like my key phrase. I'm going to do what your last agent didn't do. I'm going to be your broker for life.
I love that. And guys, she makes them feel weird about their policy, about like, you don't have a policy if you can't produce it. Okay. So that's don't number 4, guys. And a lot of times is you believe them, right? So you'll call me or you call your upline and you're like, hey, Erica, they said they have a policy and it's worth $2 million. And it's like, did you look at it? No, they said it was in the file cabinet. Okay. Well, did they grab it? No. Okay. So where are you now? Oh, I just left the appointment. It's like, no, we don't believe them. So the only time that we believe that they have coverage is if they can prove it to you and you can lay eyes on it.
That's like my go-to line. And then I do love looking at the policies when they do bring them out. Because then you'll have people that are like, oh, I have $500,000 whole life. I'm like, you have 5,100 accidental.
Yeah.
Or they're like, it's like a term or something and it's like up in a couple of years. So I love doing policy reviews. And there's been times where I've been like, this is a great policy. They've got you in a great spot. I would just stack this on top of it so that you have a full wraparound. You're not only able to cover the mortgage, but we've got all those final expenses taken care of. And so, there's times that you really do find good policies, but it's not often.
Yeah, that's huge. And I agree. I mean, in all the families I've helped, which is not as many as you ladies, but I've only literally, I think one time told a person like, no, you actually have really good coverage. Like, I'm not going to mess with it. But almost like literally every other policy I've written has been, we could do something better, or they just straight up didn't have it. So part of that, guys, too, is you can't believe them. Like when they say I have a policy, Alicia just doesn't believe them. Like she's like, no, they don't. Unless I can lay my eyes on it and touch it with my fingers, they don't have a policy. Okay. So, and also guys, something good that I would write down too for that is she said, if you don't know where it is, or you can't pull it out for me, how does your beneficiary know where it is? They're not going to, right? Who's the agent that they call and ask them those questions? Okay, Erica, ring, ring, you call me. I'm like, Erica, I'm not getting anything today. I'm covered. I have work coverage.
Perfect. That's awesome, Marissa. A lot of people have work coverage. That's great supplement, but the insurance carriers actually don't consider that as coverage because once you stop working, that coverage goes away. So for all intents and purposes, when you say you have work insurance, I'm actually going to mark no because that's not coverage at all. And I kind of pause because that also makes them uncomfortable when you're saying that the carrier doesn't acknowledge that as coverage at all, because in reality, it isn't. And if you're able to tell a story with that, which I do have a personal story with that, my aunt worked for 25 years for the state, helping children in need, and she got diagnosed with cancer. She was not able to work, had to stop working, and lost her coverage. And now, once she needed that coverage, she couldn't qualify for anything else. So when she died, she had zero coverage because this entire 25 years, she thought she had coverage. So I wouldn't want that to happen to you, Marissa. I know this is important to you. So I'll see what I can do. Definitely keep that because that is great coverage to have. You don't even have to qualify. It's group coverage, just like your health insurance. But let's make sure that you have something that you own, because I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want my employer to be in control of what my kids do or don't get if I pass. Does that make sense? And if you get them to agree when you're talking, do you understand? Does that make sense? These are things that they have to acknowledge versus you're just talking to them. Because if they don't understand what you're saying, come the end, it's going to be a no. But if throughout your entire conversation, you're able to get them to agree with you and understand exactly what you're saying, at the end, when I tell them, we're going to put in an application, the carrier is going to let us know if they're even qualify in 3 to 5 days. Does that make sense? They're going to say, yes, just like they did the last 5 times that I asked them.
Yeah. That's huge. And guys, again, that was kind of another one about, again, no, even if they say work coverage, we believe that they might have the coverage, but we don't believe it's going to protect their family. So that kind of goes, that's like don't 4.5. Don't believe in work coverage. Believe that it's there, but that doesn't mean anything. Right? Okay. Erika, real quick, because I know you're real good at this. One leg appointments. Husband is there, but no wife, or wife is there, but no husband. Do you run the appointment or do you reschedule?
Absolutely not. I've been fooled so many times. I've even asked all the right questions where I'm like, okay, so Marissa, what you're saying is you're the only one that works and Bob doesn't make any decision. Yes. Okay. So if we were to find something that works, you're the one that makes all the financial decisions. Yes. Okay, great. So I've asked all of those because I say, Marissa, they do require me to speak to you both just because you are married. Most married couples do make financial decisions together. But what you're saying is if we find something that works best for your family, you're not going to need to go ask Bob, right? Right. You have the appointment. I can promise you at the end of the appointment, it doesn't matter how many questions you ask, they're going to say, you know what, Erika, I actually need to ask Bob and then I'll get back to you. 100% of the time, it's been 2.5 years. I've never once actually got through, even when I'm like, no, this person, I mean, he's the full bread maker. He makes $200,000 on his own. His wife is his stay home. Like he can make this decision. No, nobody makes the decision without their spouse. If they say it's true, it is not. And even if you were able to get through it, the one time I was able to, you know what happened? 3 days later, the wife called me and was like, hey, you helped my husband do this and we don't want it.
Yep.
Because she didn't understand it. So do yourself a favor if they are married. And I even go so far, Marissa, to say, okay, perfect. So Marissa, are you married or single? I'm single. Okay, perfect. When you say you're single, so you live on your own, you're not in a relationship, or you're just not married. They say, oh, well, I'm in a relationship. Okay, perfect. So I understand you guys are not married, but these decisions should be made together. So even if they're not going to be the one paying, I want to make sure that they understand the benefits of this. So let's set up a time where you're both together. Are you guys typically together in the evenings? What's better, today or tomorrow? Right? So you want to make sure it does not matter if they're married or not. If there are two people in that situation, you have two people together. Otherwise, it's always going to end up the same way.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's huge. Again, that's don't number 5. Never run an appointment without a husband or wife. Alicia, what do you got,
I
girl?
want to hit on that. Anytime that I sit with a spouse, like or like on the phone with a spouse, anytime that they're like, yeah, I do need my spouse there. We make those decisions together. Is there anybody important? I automatically assume we're then shopping for the couple. Perfect. So we are looking for coverage for both of you guys today. And then I'm able to, sometimes double the sale that way. But that's something I want to hit on.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That is actually huge. Let's do that last time. Let's use that as a don't, right? So don't number 6, guys. If you go there and there's a husband and a wife, Alicia, under what circumstance, which I feel like it's a trick question. Okay. Was there ever a time and how did you change that where like you went just to insure the guy because the guy was on the lead, but then you automatically started envisioning like, hey, there's 2 policies here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just assume when I'm sitting down with them, okay, perfect. I do the financial inventory for both of them. And then, I mean, especially if you're selling a husband and a wife, they get really cute. And so like the wife will be like, oh, well, my birthday's blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. And what about you? What medications are you on? And so I'm automatically then interacting with both of them. And then when I'm going through, especially when I'm doing Aetna, I just have them both up. So I'm just telling them at the same time what I'm going to be able to do for them. So I just assume that I'm automatically going to do that. But if I'm setting the appointment, then I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure that we are looking for the both of you guys today. And sometimes I'll be like, no, it's really just for me because my husband has his cremation taken care of. And I'll go, okay, perfect. So we're just looking for supplemental for him then. And then just run through it that way. But I always try to just assume.
Always assume, guys, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, they both need the coverage. Why would they not, right? There'd never be a circumstance where one of them would need it and the other one wouldn't, right? So always try to get 2. All right, Des, I had a person call me a couple days ago and they said, hey, I have 2 appointments. They're 3 hours away. I'm going to leave and go to these appointments that are 3 hours away. I have 2 of them. Okay, is there a certain, and I know we talk about dial time. If you were driving real far, how many appointments would you need to have booked before you would go? When does it become a waste of my dial time, right? How do you decide between I need to dial for more appointments or like, let me go to this one or maybe 2 appointments?
Yeah, if you're booking in a different county that's like an hour, 2 hours away, you should always book like 8 to 10 appointments. Never go to a far county with like only 3 appointments. And then also like if you are concerned about your drive time in between appointments, I'm always, like I said, I'm always late to my appointment. So when I'm dialing, I'll tell them, hey, give me a buffer time. I'm seeing a ton of different families. Some of them ask more questions than others. So give me a little window, and I'm like an hour or 2 hours late almost every time, depending on it. But the biggest thing is booking for like your field day far away, like book a full day, especially if it's in a different county.
Okay. I think that's huge too, guys. And that comes back to our dial time a little bit. But again, if you are going to do that, it's got to be something. You got to be door knocking. You got to be dialing in between, right? And always remember the activity always wins. So you can't be like, hey, my first appointment's at noon. I'm going to head out at 11. And then like, I didn't dial from 8. Like you have to have a fully booked schedule and you're in control of those schedules. And like Desi said, you'd rather be late than be, I have all this time and I just drove 6 hours round trip for one freaking appointment that, by the way, guess what happens if they no show you? Okay. So that's why dial days are so important. If you don't, especially if you're running far away, guys, and you're going to make that drive, you better have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 appointments. Okay.
Right. And if you don't, then just setting up your door knockers before, like always have a folder. And then when you're dialing with your speed dialer, like have a disposition for like door knock, because there's a lot of wrong numbers. And then if you have a lot of wrong numbers, you could just print for whatever that county and have it ready just in case you have that time. But you shouldn't have that time in between. I think you should just be running all day, 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, it's 9, so you can hop off if you want, but I think we're going to keep rolling here. Actually, this is really good stuff. Erika, this is strictly in-home, and I know you used to do it in-home, so I know you can answer this. I call on dial day. I book 15 appointments. Okay, give them the confirmation code. Everything's cool. The next day, do I text them to say, confirming our appointment at 4:00?
No, you absolutely don't. An appointment is an appointment. If you did not do a good enough job solidifying that appointment in the very beginning, you're never going to be able to catch up from that. So if you didn't have them pull out a pen and write down your name and write down your license number or confirmation or whatever it is that you do to make your appointment set, you cannot catch up from that. You're no longer important, right? And I wanted to touch on what you were just talking about with Desi, because I never left my house unless I had 5 appointments ever. And so if someone is struggling, if I had an agent call me and said they only had 2 appointments and one was at noon and one was at 6 p.m., I would tell them, don't waste their time and get back on the phones. And so the way that I've helped agents minimize that is by working your calendar to your favor. So I actually worked my calendar backwards. So when I was in home and I was dialing in the traditional, you dial on Monday and then you're running on Tuesday and Wednesday, what I would do is I would start my Tuesday at, let's say, 2 or 3 p.m. when I was booking. So if I booked on the hour, I would book a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then I would start booking to my Wednesday, because if I got to my end of my Monday and I only had 8 appointments, Tuesday morning was a dial day again. It wasn't, hey, I only have 6 appointments between Tuesday and Wednesday. So, you know what, I can probably take my family out to breakfast. And no, that's a dial day. And so what I've always told people is Monday is the traditional dial day. You want to get as many appointments as possible. Try to book 5 on Tuesday. And if you get really good, eventually it'll be even. It'll be 7 and 8 or 8 and 8, whatever that looks like. But if at the end of Monday, you only have 6 appointments, Tuesday morning, you should be waking up and you should be dialing up until that first appointment. So the way that you would work it is you would try to book as many as you can in Tuesday evening, and then you would start booking to your Wednesday. So that would mean in the very beginning, your Wednesdays and your Saturdays are super crazy, because if you're dialing on Thursday for half a day on Friday, right, you're starting your appointments at 2 or 3 p.m. and you're getting 5 appointments that evening and you're trying to fill your Saturday, you're doing that 2 dial days, Monday and Thursday. but then Tuesday and Friday morning become a dial day as well. So never, ever leave your house for 5 appointments, because it's not only a waste of your time, but it really screws up your mindset. Because like Marissa said, if you drive 2 hours to an appointment and they no-show you, there is nothing like driving the 2 hours back, beating yourself up because you wasted your time going out there, and then your gas, and you have to go tell your wife that you failed today, as opposed to if you just use that time dialing and you said, you know what, that person didn't show up, or they didn't answer the phone, or whether you're doing telesales or in home, they didn't answer, and you have another appointment right after, you're almost in a hurry to get to your next appointment, which makes your mindset that much better. So if you're booking your appointments, make sure they are an hour and 15 minutes apart, so that if you have a no-show, now you're caught up. Like Desi said, she's, an hour, 2 hours late, right? So if Desi gets her 9 o'clock appointment at 10 o'clock because she's been running late because she just helped her 8 a.m. and they no-show her, guess what? She almost feels a sense of relief, because now she's back on track, and she's like, no problem, I'm back on track, as opposed to driving and feeling like that was the only opportunity she had to protect a family. So you can help your mindset and you can protect your time all at once.
That's huge. When no-shows feel like a relief, you're on track. So when you have enough appointments that you're actually kind of hoping somebody no-shows you, that's a good thing. That means you have enough appointments that the numbers are going to work out in your favor. And then the second part to that, guys, the original don't confirm your appointments. Every time you give them a chance to cancel, they will. So if you text them and say, hey, Alicia, we still good for 4 p.m.? Well, and then she's going to be like, oh, you know what? Actually, I did just come down with a minor headache. So no, that's not going to work. You gave them a chance to cancel. So if you don't communicate with them until you show up there, then it's like, hey, I forgot you were coming. Well, here I am now. Or, hey, don't come. Oh, sorry, I texted you not to come. Oh, that must have been my office phone. I didn't see it. Anyway, I'm here now. So never, even if canceled appointments, guys, you still go to them. So Alicia, real quick, girl, I'm going to ask you 2 things. I mean, obviously we kind of just got that. Always go to canceled appointment. Don't not go. That's another don't. That's a do. Do go to the appointments even if they cancel, because they're probably home. Okay. So Alicia, real quick, any more do's and or don'ts you can think of? And then after that, and I'm going to ask all 3 of you ladies this real quick, is because everyone wants to know this. How do you ask for social and banking?
Okay. So do you want me to do that first? How I ask for social and banking?
Perfect.
Okay. So, I mean, I just make it like I already gave them my business social, my NPN number. So I try to make it just as calm as possible. So, okay, cool. So you said, now I make a lot of things just conversation when I'm doing the application. So they don't even know I've opened up the application. Hey, Marissa. So you said, are you Arizona born and raised?
I was born in Montana.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I have never been to Montana. Okay, Montana born, perfect. And then how tall do you stand, Marissa?
5'6".
Okay, perfect. And how much do you weigh?
136 pounds.
Awesome. And you said Montana born, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. Verify your social.
618-924-8863.
Awesome. Okay. And then I'm just going to read it back to you real quick before they block it off for me. Da, 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 da. Awesome. And then I just run through it, but I use where they're born to tie it. Sometimes, people will ask what, and then I gave that objection a little bit earlier. And then, yeah, banking. So in the beginning, I've already asked who they bank with because I've asked if they have a will. So once we get to banking, I've already solidified the premium that if they do qualify, then this is what they would be comfortable paying. Perfect. When does your Social Security come in? Do you work, find out what date's going to be most comfortable. If you are approved today, would that, $102 be in there right now? Okay, perfect. And then I've already Googled their bank, and I have a routing number. So I'm going to go, okay, perfect. I'm just verifying the routing number is 1221. Oh, sorry. Do you have something to verify that with? Oh yeah. Let me go grab. Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, perfect. And account number when you're ready.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay, guys. So a couple of things that she did there. One, it was very conversational. So she's asking you a lot of questions so that you're used to answering that. Your client is used to answering the question. So the one rule I always say about this, guys, is if you don't make it weird, it's not weird. If you make it weird, it's going to be weird. So I always did it the same way. Hey, where were you born? You know, how tall are you? What's your email? Perfect. Do you get emails? Okay, awesome. Looks like you're a US citizen. Perfect. Verify your social for me. They've answered so many questions in a row that they're not going to object. The other thing that's really good that Alicia does, and she actually taught this to me, is she says, verify your social. When you say verify, and when you say verify your account number, verify makes it seem like you already have it.
Yeah.
So it's not what is your social or what is your bank account information. It's verify your social for me. It almost seems like then I'm like, verify. Well, she already has it. So I'm just reading it back to her, right? That is very tricky stuff, guys. So if you're not implementing that, and if you're getting a social security or a banking objection, you can try that, right? I have your routing number here. Those are all public records, so I can look that up. Here's your routing number. Now go ahead and verify the account whenever you're ready. And then just like that. Alicia, any do's and don'ts that you can think of that we missed or that you wanted to talk about?
I would say, I mean, okay, so I have a lot of my business stays on the books because at the end of the conversation, I let them know I am going to be your lady for life. The old men love that. I'm like, I'm going to be your lady for life, which means on the worst day of your son, mother, daughter's, sister's, wife's day of her life, she's going to call me and I'm going to help her fill out the death claim. Okay. So if I'm going to call you guys, do yearly reviews. If you need anything from me, you have my phone number. Actually put me in your phone right now while I'm on the phone with you. Okay. You got my information. Awesome. And then I really like to make sure that I send them a full breakdown of everything we talked about via email with another copy of my license, a copy of the application. I also do that because I'm really type A and it's just nice to have everything in one spot. But then like, they're like, oh, you never sent me that email. I'm like, yeah, no, it says sent at 7:10 p.m. Monday, the 27th. So you did get it. So I just want to make sure you have all that information. And I reiterate everything on there too. I usually like at the end, I try to throw in like, oh my gosh, it was so much, so fun getting a few laughs in with you, or thanks so much for sharing about, your son that had just passed. Just, so grateful to be your lady for life or your insurance broker for life. Let me know if you have any questions or need anything. And then a full breakdown of the policy. They've got their policy application, PDF, and then my license. So
Love that. So those are yeah, that's huge. And that's why her persistency is so good, guys. She doesn't have a lot of chargebacks. She doesn't have a lot fall off the books for a couple of reasons. So those would be do's. Do leave them, with lifelong credibility that you are their agent, right? When so-and-so, when God forbid that happens, so-and-so is going to call me. Here's my number. Put it in your phone. Do leave them with information. So if you're in the home, guys, I would write something down. Leave after you have helped them with the policy. Don't leave stuff if they don't get the policy. Okay. So don't leave stuff if they don't get the policy, guys. But anyway, do leave the information if they do get it. What carrier did they get? What's the coverage? Do you write it down? I would always write, literally, I would have a sheet and I would write down the exact same thing on a sheet next to them because people like to see information written down. Like it helps them visually. So always leave that. And also it's going to help you in the future. If any agents try to call them or replace your business or do anything, they're going to be like, heck no, Alicia's right here. Here's what she left me. Here's what she sent me. So that's huge. Yeah, those are both dues.
Clients call me and they're like, oh, I got a call from a girl who said, I'm like, what'd you tell her? She's like, I said, Alicia's my girl. So I can't talk to you about it anymore. I'm taken care of. And I'm like, good.
Exactly.
And then I think a major don't is, I know we said I say verify for all of the important information. Don't say what's your social, like ever. I feel like it's so intrusive to the client. And then I feel like throughout the policy, when you're doing the application, don't try to be like their best friend right away. Cause they're definitely going to try to take advantage. And then they're going to be like, yeah, you know what? Now I'm not that comfortable, or I'm going to need to think about it. I don't really build major rapport until after I have the banking information. After that point, we're already solidified. We've put the last signatures on there, or we've gotten the last text message or email, whatever. So I'm like, okay, now I'm your lady for life. You don't just get to go halfway through and then have a lady for life. That's not how it works.
Right.
So I like to build that credibility in the beginning and then become, more of a human being, I guess, at the end of the conversation after banking. So you can kind of build that relationship and then they know, my lady for life is a person.
100%. I love that, guys. And people say no to their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I was way too friendly, they would say no. And then someone else would go out there and get them covered because I would have spent, 27 minutes talking with Janice about her really cool new dishwasher. And I would be eating cookies and having a blast with Janice. And she'd be like, yeah, I'm not getting insurance from you. I'll get it from Erika because Erika's going to be in control and she's going to not be my friend. Okay. So people say no to their friends. So, Erika, I love for you to talk about banking and social if it's different than what Alicia said, and then any do's and don'ts you can hit on as well.
The only thing I add to the social is I say, can you verify the social we have on file? So verify used to work really well for me. And then I started getting objections. So now I say, well, we have on file. And then if you ever get an objection that says, well, what do you have on file? Well, Marissa, it's actually blocked out for me. It's a security question. So if I put it in correctly, I'll be able to continue. But if I do enter in something wrong, then it will block out and it'll trigger as fraud. Go ahead with the social. Right. So I'm actually showing them that I'm protecting them, and that's why I don't have it. And I actually do the same exact thing with the routing. So when I ask them, I'll say, perfect, Alicia, who do you bank with? Bank of America. Perfect. Did you open that here in Washington? Yes. Okay, great. So I'll Google Bank of America, Washington. So I'm showing here the last 4 digits as X. Oh, I don't know. I don't have that in front of me. No problem, Alicia. I'll go ahead and wait. Can you grab that? And then while they're looking it up, obviously they've now grabbed a check or they've opened up their online banking. As soon as they say, oh yeah, that sounds right. Okay, perfect. So now I'll verify the entire thing. I'm gaining more credibility. Perfect. So it's 1221-0728. That's exactly what you have. Okay, got it. Now what's the account number you're looking at? Right? So they're already looking at it, ready for that account number when you are. But I like to say, what's the account number you're looking at? Because they are indeed pulling it up and they're going to naturally say it. And if they have the objection one more time of, well, what do you have? Like I said, it's just like the social for your protection. I actually can't see it, but it's going to double check that it does match with your name. And the banking information, if it comes back as fraud, it will trigger, but we don't have to worry about that, right? Okay, ready when you are.
Huge. And guys, something that if you'll notice both Alicia and Erika did, when they asked the question, verify your social or verify your bank, they literally were silent. Like they're like, if you start being weird, again, if you're weird, they're weird. So what I used to do, I used to be like, Erika, can you give me your social? And then I'd be like, and whenever you're ready, and like, oh, like what an amazing tree right there. And that's really awesome. And like, look at those flowers. That'd be really cool. Yeah, whenever you have time. And it was like, I was being weird. So they're straight up, like I do this 100 times a day. I'm not playing around with you. Verify your social whenever you're ready. And then they're silent. Like, this is what we do. Like, it's not like, we're not being awkward about it because it's not awkward. Like, tell me what it is. So I think that's huge. Erika, when you were in the home, did you ever leave information for anybody that did not buy a policy?
Never. I remember in my very first week, I called Clay and I made so many friends, guys. I had tamales sent home and bondigas and all those things, right? Everyone loved me. And I'm like, Clay, guess what? I just left a home. It was $205 a month. He's like, perfect. You got it? Well, no, I didn't get it, but I'm going to because they made me dinner. And so I'm going to go back next week. You want to know how many times I went back next week? Never. Never have I ever. And the reality is, if it's not important to them that day, it's never going to be important. So if you don't do a good enough job of saying, Marissa, I don't understand. You want me to come back to talk about what? We haven't qualified you. My job is just to qualify you. So it's going to take 3 to 5 days to do that. From there, you have 30 days to make any changes up or down. Do you typically take longer than 30 days to make decisions?
No.
Okay, perfect. So that sounds like that timing will work. So let's go ahead and put this in now. And then you wanted me to call you next Tuesday. So by next Tuesday, I'm going to have an answer for you if you're approved or not approved. And then we can make any changes that are needed. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, guys, notice about that too. And I'm going to have Desi hit on this a little bit as well. She said you have 30 days to make any changes up or down after you're qualified. What she did not say is you have 30 days to cancel it if you don't want it. You never tell the clients, hey, you are going to have 30 days to cancel this. We have something called a free look period, guys. So in the free look, like, no. Okay. If you're telling them about a free look period, guys, you're asking for a chargeback. Okay. She said you have 30 days to adjust up or down. She never said anything about canceling. I've had a couple agents do that. Well, I told them they have 30 days. I told them we're just going to qualify them. They have 30 days to cancel if they want to. Like, you just told them they can cancel. Do not put that in their mind. Okay. Des, real quick, girl. I think we're good on banking and social. Two last don'ts I want you to hit on, or one last don't, and then whatever you got. You get to the house, Des not making any decisions today. Just want you to leave me some quotes.
Yeah, I'll just straight up say, hey, I'm not the quote person. I'm a medical field underwriter. I help a ton of people with different eligibility. And then I'll just kind of like say that and ask if they've ever done it before. But I just straight up say like, hey, I'm not a quote person. I see a ton of different people, and there's a lot of people who really want this information. So I could like go right now, but and I kind of just leave it at that. I make it really uncomfortable if they're really not interested, and then I'll kind of touch on the why and take control. But I don't necessarily get that one too often. And then another don't, going back to like leaving the business card. I've had a ton of people say, hey, can you leave a business card? I'll be like, oh no, sorry, you're not my client. I don't leave any business cards for my clients. That's huge. And then they'll be like, well, why? Well, because I wouldn't want your family members like calling my number when you pass away, wondering if you have coverage, because you're not one of my clients. I don't want that liability. And then I'll just kind of peace out and go after the refusal form. And then one of the do's that I really do when you're in home, I take a selfie with my client. You probably heard this on other trainings before, but I physically take the phone from them and I'll put my number in there, and I'll put, hey, I'm going to put my name as Desiree life insurance girl or life insurance lady or whatever. Hey, perfect. Take a selfie. Awesome. It's on there. And then I'll call my phone while I'm there, grab my phone, and then do the same thing. And then I say kind of very much similar to what like Alicia was doing, like, hey, I'm your client for life. If something did happen to you, your daughters get to call me, and I'm going to be there picking up all the pieces while they're going to be grieving during the worst time of their life. Okay. And that's one thing that I take a lot of pride in my job, is that I get to be there for my clients' families when you're not there. And I'll do the very best I can to, take care of them. And then I'll ask them, does that make you feel comfortable? Like, that normally provides a lot of peace for my clients. And I'll ask them that in the home.
Yeah, Des, I think that's huge too, because a lot of times, like what Alicia says when she's like, hey, I'm going to do what your last agent didn't, like most agents aren't going to do that. So even if they have a policy, quote unquote, they don't have a picture of them with their agent in their cell phone. I'll tell you that right now. So do take a selfie with them and put your contact in their phone. Okay, that's huge too. Another thing that you could do virtual contacts cards if you're doing telesales, where that thing had the virtual card has a picture of it, and they'll be like, hey, save this business card in your photos, but then also put it as my contact photo as well. So you can do some of that. So that's huge, guys. So the last things, guys, just to recap, Des said, don't leave information, don't leave a business card. I don't want to be a liability if your daughter or your son calls me and I have to tell them you didn't get insurance. Okay. And do make sure you leave that extra credibility, guys. But the selfie, a lot of people actually really like, they're like, why are you taking a picture? Like, most insurance agents don't do that. Well, I'm not an insurance agent. I'm a medical underwriter. Okay. So guys, I think this has been huge. I feel like we can just keep coming up with a lot of stuff and we could go all night. We're already at an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you, ladies, so much, guys. You should have a column. You should have 2 columns of do's and don'ts and how to fix them and how to implement those. So you ladies have been wonderful. I think you absolutely crushed it. And, I think a lot of people are going to be able to go in the home and get on the phone and make some sales and protect some families this week. So thanks so much, ladies. One of our best trainings ever, if not the best. And let's have a killer night, guys. If you're on the West Coast, let's get back on the phones.